Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight, it was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. With I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you. This is Toadstool Sports for Thursday, a.k.a. Thanksgiving, November 27th. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hopefully everybody is going to be joining in the festivities today, seeing family, having good food, etc. It's what it's all about. Mr. Pinsey, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. We are the hot hand. Not just because of all of my masturbating, but yes, we've been really hot on the show. 4-0 yesterday for 6-0 yesterday for 4-0 the day before that for 10-0 over the last 2 days, man. Yeah, I mean, possibly got a little bit lucky on a couple of the games yesterday. Hold on, I got to make sure my audio levels are all right here. Yeah, see here. Are we good? Yeah, I think I'm all right. All right. I just do not like my voice, ever. Yeah, we started out nice in the afternoon with Texas Tech. I mean, they didn't look great in the first half. I think they were only up like 9 at the half or something. I'm like, well, the dominant team sometimes can put it away completely in the second half, and they definitely did that. They covered every number. The line was up to like 29 when the game went off. So, again, these college basketball lines move like crazy, so hopefully you can get the better number by me doing this. Sometimes the number goes in the other direction, although that is kind of what I said with the other game. I said on the other game I thought you could wait and get a better number, which was also true. Neither of them really actually mattered, but yeah, Texas Tech won by, I think, 32, so they covered every single number, although it was a lot more comfortable at the 25.5. We have people revving their engines out there, which you probably can't hear. It sounds like a motorcycle. Oh, my God. Kansas got us the outright win as well. That, as I pointed out on the show, I thought you could wait and get a better number on it. It got up to 6 at its peak, I believe. Probably, I'm assuming if the people who played it, probably the majority of people were able to get about 5.5 on that, but it didn't even matter because they won outright. So Kansas, they were hanging in the game. They were behind, but not by a lot, and then they had a nice push at the end and won the game outright. And then hockey, we swept the board 4-0. Pittsburgh got the job done for us. I think it was a pretty easy win with Pittsburgh to start it off. The New York Rangers, pretty easy win as well. I think they won by multiple goals, so the puck line didn't even come into play. They hit on the money line. So either way we did it, that was a win. Toronto might have been a little bit lucky, man. The game statistically, I think, was pretty close, but they were losing that game 1-0 with 3 minutes to go. But after the way the Ducks took me out with 4 seconds left, when they tied the game with 4 seconds left against Utah the other night, I'll take a game like Toronto. Toronto scored with 3 minutes left in the game, and then they won in overtime. So we got the win on Toronto in fairly dramatic fashion. And then Vancouver, they got outplayed in the game. Like, if you look at the statistics, I think they were actually the more physical team in their game, but they actually got outshot by a lot. So it was like a game that maybe Vancouver shouldn't have won, but they were winning 3-1, like into the third period, I think. So I was like, or maybe it was late in the second period. I was like, all right, we're looking pretty good here for Vancouver, at least to push this thing and cover on the puck line. But I'm like, cover on the puck line part of it, yeah. But I'm thinking I want the sweep today. I'm thinking everything is going our way. We have the 6-0 right in our grasp now, and then Vancouver blew the lead, and the game became a 3-3 tie. But then Vancouver was able to take the lead back late and make it 4-3, and then I think they scored another goal. I don't know if it was an empty net or what, but they were up 5-3, and then Anaheim scored once more. Just garbage time. Again, Anaheim scoring late, but this time it didn't matter because Vancouver had the 2-goal lead, so we got the win on that one too. Yeah. Rolling into Thanksgiving. It's going to be a light card today. I mean, the board is not very heavy. I'm going to give some opinions on all of the games, basically. But we have one play in college basketball and one play in the NFL. That's what I've narrowed it down to for today. So hopefully everybody's all right with that. I'm being selective. Yes, sir. Jeffrey, what's up, man? Bad Andy, what's up, man? MVP in what sport are we talking about? We're talking about NFL, probably. Man, it's like almost always a quarterback. It's almost always on a team that's a winning team. Do they announce the MVP at the end of the regular season? Or does it? I forget when they announce it. Because it's always going to be a team that's winning. Oh, my God, man. I mean, something is telling me it's going to be Mahomes, dude. That's what I think. I think the Chiefs, they're going to go on a run. They're like almost obviously going to make the playoffs. They're under the radar. They're still one of the top teams in football, so you probably know which way I'm leaning in the Thanksgiving game that they're in today as well. But that would be what I think right now. Let me look at the odds on it right now, because I do actually not know. Let me see. I don't have to leave for a little while, so hold on. I'm looking at MVP odds here. Oh, wait, it could be Matthew Stafford, I guess, right? They're a winning team, but for some reason, I just never really even think about Stafford like in that way. Like, is he really that good, or is it more that the Rams team is just that awesome? You can get Patrick Mahomes at 25-1 right now, though. Seems like a decent option there. He has lower odds than Josh Allen. Matthew Stafford is the favorite, and then Drake May is at 2-1. I don't know if they're going to give it to May, man. In his first full season, it just doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. I think the Patriots they've had a really, really easy schedule. Let's just put it that way. I think at some point the wheels are going to come off of that train, that wagon to some extent, the Patriots. Stafford is obviously in the mix, but dude, I just don't know. Like, you get like an old dude like that, and again, it's like his team is just really, really good. Is he really that good? The Predators won. I leaned that way, but I never want to touch the Predators, man, unless I'm performing a what is it? A civilian's arrest? What do they call that? That's the only time I'm going to touch a Predator, or to beat them up. That's true. I never lose. Correct. Cole cannot do this. Cole does not like my take on the Denver-Washington game on Sunday night. The Predators touch me. Yeah, well, I look like a baby, so they're like all over me. All right. Yeah, let's get into today's slate, man. But yeah, obviously I never lose, but we're running so hot that there's going to be some regression in there. I know we've had a couple of bad days in here, but man, it's been a couple of awesome months on the show. I want to try to continue it. Let's try to do it. We'll start out with college basketball. Unfortunately for these students, a lot of these students are having to play in random locations and whatever for college basketball on Thanksgiving when they probably would rather be attending Thanksgiving festivities. So you kind of have to try to gauge, like, is this team going to want to be somewhere else? I mean, there is that aspect of this. Like, sometimes I think some of the bigger, like, cold weather teams, if they're not competing to, like, try to win this tournament that they're in or wherever, they might just lose focus, let's just say. But we do have a game at 11 a.m. in this Terry's Chocolate Tournament in Kissimmee, Florida with Richmond and Furman. I mean, I have absolutely no opinion on this, although I can tell you Richmond is a 4-point favorite, down from 4.5. They're public, 89% of the tickets, although, again, as I talk about with these games, I think there really isn't, like, there's not heavy public action on most of these games. The real degenerates, maybe, we got to have action at 11 a.m. Eastern, man. 92% of the cash on Richmond. I mean, the actual money appears to be on Richmond in that game as well. They're the somewhat better team, but I just have no feel for that. Vandy and VCU. Vandy at 24th in the country, and Ken Baum actually has them ranked in the teens, so he actually is telling you, according to his metrics, Vandy actually a little bit underranked. VCU, pretty good team as well, though. This is at noon in the Bahamas in the battle for Atlantis. Vandy, I think they're in a better spot here because they had a scare yesterday against Western Kentucky. This was yesterday. Of course, ESPN is screwing me over as much as they can, right? Like, they put the ESPN bet graphic back, or not graphic, but widget back up here, and then they take away the game flow where I want to see, like, what was the score, like, when did it get it to its closest, what were the win percentage what were the win percentages at that point in the game. Nope, ESPN's got to take something away from me, make it more difficult for me to handicap. Thank you, ESPN. But what I can tell you is Western Kentucky was down 10 late in this game, and they came back to within 3 late in the game, and then Vandy wound up winning by 5 on a couple of free throws at the end of the game. I think Vandy did not hit a field goal for the last, 5 minutes of the game, maybe something like that. So Vandy really had an escape here as the much better team, as they were an 18.5-point favorite. And when that happens, usually that team is going to refocus a little bit in the next game. So I think that is going to be the case with Vandy. VCU is coming off beating South Florida. VCU is a small favorite in this one, but looking at, they put the game flow up for this one. Thank you, ESPN. How nice of you. South Florida was terrible from 3-point range in the game. That was really the one, outlying metric here at 14% from 3. Although Vandy was the better rebounding team. They were pretty much the better team in the game. They won the game. I would lean to Vandy in this game, though. Vandy is a step up from South Florida, quite obviously. They're a 6-point favorite for a reason. 87% of the tickets. We see 99% of the cash on Vandy. I don't really agree with I don't think that percentage is accurate, but yeah, I would lay the points with Vandy. I think they're in a focused spot after getting a scare from Western Kentucky in the prior game, so that's what I would do in that game. Yes, Terry's Chocolates, orange and mint, shaped like an orange. I would try it. Sounds interesting to me. I've had orange chocolate. Obviously, I love mint and chocolate. I may have had the combination of the two. I would do it, though. Vandy, right? Andy, I think, is a Vandy fan. Yeah. I'm saying I liked them in that game, though, so there you go. All right. Talking about some of these other games, we do have some bigger games here as well. Out in the Las Vegas Michelob Ultra Arena, part of the Players Era tournament. We have Oregon and Creighton, I believe, in the losers bracket. Both of these teams have lost both games in the tournament. Oregon, not really much of a shame in losing to Auburn and San Diego State. Those are good teams. Oregon, not quite as good this year, really. Creighton, I believe Creighton is the better team. Ken Baum, I think, has Creighton about 20 ranking spots higher than Oregon. Creighton also lost. They lost to Baylor and Iowa State, so they debatably lost to the better teams than Oregon did in this tournament. So Creighton, I guess, a little bit more battle-tested. Both teams are coming off losses that were not close. So I think as far as the situation, I don't really think it benefits one team or the other. I would lean towards Creighton in this game, but the money is completely opposite. This Oregon is up to a 1-point favorite, even though, again, according to Ken Baum's metrics, Creighton should be a favorite of a couple of points, I think. Creighton is public, 79% of tickets, only 75% of the cash, so there's reverse line movement. It looks like Oregon is the market read in this one and getting the line movement against the public, so I don't really want to fade a market read like that, especially when I don't really have any strong situation to rely on there, although looking at the metrics differ from the market in that one. I don't know if there's an injury going on or what's going on there, but Ken Palm's metrics have Creighton as the better team. So just putting all that information out there. No NBA, no NHL. I like it. It makes it easier for me, although there's a bunch tomorrow. Brad, what's up, man? Thank you, sir. Bad beat on the Wolves. I did not think the Wolves really had a shot to do it. As I pointed out on the show yesterday, the Timberwolves have 0 wins against winning teams this year. Like, yeah, you figure they're going to step it up for a game against OKC. I mean, OKC is they're the best team in the league, so teams are going to try to step it up against them. But OKC, they're continuing to win by margin. They're winning by like at least 13 points at home on average. Again, Minnesota has not won against a winning team all season, as crazy as that sounds. So I didn't even think they were going to cover, although they did. I had the game on over here. I was up here last night. I had the game on, and I know it was close later in the game. After it looked like OKC had started running away with the game, and then all of a sudden it was really close in the fourth quarter. But yeah, Minnesota could not get there. They did cover though. So what was the bad beat? I don't know. If you got like plus 10 or whatever, I think they covered every number. They lost by 8, and I think the opener was 8.5. So they covered. And yes, the Celtics, that was a lean for me. I'm kind of surprised that they won, but it seemed like, I don't know, it seemed like a spot where the Celtics might be able to do it. And there was all this talk about like Detroit like needs to win this game because they're going to set a franchise record for 14 wins in a row. I don't know. That was like all I was hearing like from the media. 14 wins in a row. Detroit's going to do it. I don't know. That seemed like it seemed like Detroit was just a little bit too hyped in that game. They're good. I don't think they're quite as good as that record. Celtics a little bit under the radar. Zach, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out again. Yeah, Black Friday. We're going to have, there are going to be a lot of games to talk about tomorrow. We have in Palm Springs, we do have an interesting one here with San Francisco and Colorado, which I don't really have, I don't have much of a situation to talk about in this one, although San Francisco did just beat Minnesota, which is a pretty nice win for them over a Big Ten team, although not a great Big Ten team. San Francisco was they actually opened the favorite in this game, and they went off as an underdog, although I thought they deserved to be the favorite. I actually think San Francisco is better than Minnesota. The location wasn't great for them up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. That was a favorable location for Minnesota, but San Francisco got it done anyway. Now, they're back in California, so I do think the venue does help them in this one against Colorado. I believe Colorado's not as good as San Francisco. They're sitting at 5-0, but their only good win was against Providence, and that was a win I gave out on the show here because I talked about that not being a very good spot for Providence, having to go out, true road game into elevation. Colorado got it done for us, but they really have not impressed so far. I actually think San Francisco may be the better team. And they're more battle-tested because they've won against Bradley. That's a good win. They played Memphis to within 6, which is a pretty good result as well. So I actually do like San Francisco in this game. And this is going to be Colorado's first time, I believe their first time playing on the Pacific Coast because they played UC Davis, but I think it was at home. So Colorado having to go to the Pacific Coast. Don't love that either. The money seems to agree with San Francisco here. They're up to a 1.5-point favorite. 77% of tickets, 94% of the cash on them. That is what I would do in that one. I would go with San Francisco, probably money line on that one. Deals on underdogs. I'll try to give you underdogs tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to wind up having tomorrow. Today I do not though. You're not going to like today because my 2 plays are both favorites. All right. I like favorites today, man. What can I say? Virginia Tech and St. Mary's playing in the Bahamas. St. Mary's is the better team, even though they're from a lesser conference. This game's going to be on ESPN. It's a good game. Virginia Tech is coming off a win over Colorado State. I think that game was like pretty closely lined, though, and Colorado State a little bit down this year. Virginia Tech, 5.5-point favorite in that one. They're actually undefeated right now, although they haven't faced a very difficult schedule. Their best win is against Providence, who seems to be a little bit down this year. it'll be a step-up game for them. I expect both teams to show up in this game. St. Mary's is legit, although they haven't totally been battle-tested either. They have wins against some pretty good mid-major teams, and it's a good sign that they blew some of these teams out, like St. Thomas and North Texas. Those are actually solid teams, and St. Mary's annihilated them. And then they did beat Arkansas State. Not a horrible win there either. I mean, what win is horrible? The only win that's horrible is when you barely win against a horrible team. And they beat Wichita in their last outing, and it wasn't their greatest game. They did not cover as 9.5-point favorites, which was in this tournament. So I kind of expect St. Mary's to maybe turn it on a little bit more in this one. So I would agree with the St. Mary's side in this one. They're a 4-point favorite with juice now. 52% of the tickets, 86% of the cash on St. Mary's. I would probably lay it if I was going to do that, although St. Mary's, I mean, I still have speaking of Vandy and Andy, I still have kind of a bad taste in my mouth, not just because I just belched up my pumpkin pie oatmeal that I ate this morning for Thanksgiving. Make it Thanksgiving right when I wake up, man, with pumpkin pie oatmeal. But in the tournament last year, St. Mary's against Vandy, laying the -4 or whatever was one of my plays that I gave out, and they won and didn't cover, and they had to make a huge comeback to even get the win in that game. So I'm still pissed off at St. Mary's for that. They're not a very good favorite, I will say that, because they play so slow. Although it's not really a huge line to have to be laying in that one. We have TCU in Florida in the Jenny Craig Pavilion. So we'll have some weight loss program going on. The weight loss program is playing basketball in this case. Florida's ranked 10th in the country. I mean, everybody, I think, still loves Florida because they won the championship last year. They're likely to be the public side here. I mean, they're obviously going to be the favorite here. TCU is not that good. This is in, I forget what the tournament even is. It's some San Diego tournament. I don't even know. It's the Rady Children's Invitational. So it probably benefits some children's hospital maybe or something like that. It's for the kids with cancer. TCU, I don't know what to think about this TCU team. I don't think they're very good, but they did have a very close game against Michigan, which looks pretty good after what Michigan did in the Las Vegas tournament there, although maybe the teams Michigan was playing just didn't show up. I mean, I don't think Michigan is quite as good as they've looked over the last 3 days. TCU bounced back with a win over a bad Kansas City team. I still don't think they're that good, though. Florida, I mean, the time that they stepped up the most in class, they lost to Arizona. But we know Arizona is quite good. I mean, they've looked quite good so far. They beat UConn in a true road game at Storrs, Connecticut. So that Arizona team seems legit. Florida barely got by Florida State. But, you know, Florida State, they're always going to step it up for Florida. Huge rivalry, and Florida State is the little brother to them and has been for a while in basketball. Basically always is, in basketball at least. And Florida did beat Miami in the other rivalry game. Those are their big wins. TCU, not a huge opponent for them. Florida does have to face Duke and then UConn. Duke almost, that was almost the matchup in the championship last year. A lot of people had Florida-Duke in their brackets, and it wound up being Florida-Houston. Of course, I had Houston losing to Auburn, but let's not go there. Almost had Houston winning the whole thing, and I think they should have. Florida could be looking ahead to Duke, maybe. Although, I mean, I don't know. I think they'll still show up for this one against TCU because they have a break before they have to play the rest of these games. Money is coming in on Florida, although they dropped a little bit to a 13-point favorite. 51% of the tickets, 89% of the cash on Florida. I mean, I guess if you force my hand, I would probably lay it. Florida, they're going to be trying to just speed up the game and try to run TCU out of the building pretty much. Although I don't even know what pace TCU plays at this year. They're actually a slow tempo team this year, so that's probably not good for TCU because, again, Florida's the better team and they like to go fast. So that's going to be a pacing mismatch for TCU there. They're like all the overs in the NFL games today. I mean, the night game kind of seems like it might be an over, but I would have some hesitations with that. There are a lot of short weeks. So, yeah, I mean, all the teams are on short weeks, but a lot of times short weeks it kind of depends because the divisional games actually tend to be less high scoring because on the short week, divisional teams know each other, so they know how to prepare. The teams that don't know each other, like Kansas City and Dallas, that could actually be more of an over type of game, although I don't know if I like the over in that game. I'm going to talk about that game in a little while. We have probably the biggest matchup of the day is at 4:30 p.m. in college basketball. Number 16, North Carolina. Number 11, Michigan State in Fort Myers, Florida, in whatever this is, the Fort Myers tip-off. This is a good game, man. This is a big game. Both teams have looked pretty good so far. North Carolina, one big win over Kansas. Kansas got us a win yesterday. I mean, they're not a bad team, Kansas, so that's a decent win for North Carolina. That was their only time that they stepped up in class. Michigan State, a bit more battle-tested with nice wins over Arkansas and Kentucky. However, in this game, I kind of think that the public perception is going to be relying on what have we seen recently, what did we see last year, and last year it was Michigan State was the better team. Michigan State made the Elite Eight. I thought Michigan State was a little bit overrated going into the tournament, although they're always battle-tested because that's what Tom Izzo does. Again, they're getting battle-tested early in the season with some big games here. I think that perception might kind of be wrong in this game to some extent. And North Carolina, obviously, they made the tournament last year, but everybody was making fun of them for even making the tournament, and then they somewhat silenced everybody by just annihilating San Diego State in the play-in game. I thought North Carolina was actually going to go on a run in the tournament, which they did not do, although I thought they were capable of it. They almost came back and beat Ole Miss in the tournament. But I think the perception is still there. The perception is that Michigan State is the way better of these two teams, but I actually think it's close. I think Michigan State is better, but not by that much. We have a lot of reverse line movement in this one. We have Michigan State already down from a 2-point favorite to a pick 'em. 91% of the tickets and 64% of the cash on Michigan State, so they are the public side with the line moving against them. I lean to North Carolina. I agree with the market in this one. It's going to be a pacing mismatch in this, or a pacing collision, I guess we should say. So whichever team wins out as far as the tempo battle is probably going to win the game. The total has gone up, which is a good sign for North Carolina because they want to play fast and Michigan State wants to play slow. 82% of the tickets, 84% of the cash on the over for what it's worth there. I think in this game, Michigan State and the under are correlated, and North Carolina and the over are correlated. So I lean towards North Carolina and the over, although I don't know about a pick-em price here because I do think Michigan State does deserve to be a slight favorite against them on a neutral, but I think North Carolina may be able to get out of that one with that win there. So that's my opinion on that one. Stacks, what's up, man? So do I suggest DraftKings lineups like the daily fantasy? I have not done that in a long time. I do fantasy football, like an actual fantasy football league. Back when DraftKings was literally just fantasy, I did actually do it for a while. But I haven't done it for probably a decade now, something like that. Maybe I should. I know it was like a grind, but if you get it, the way that I do it, I can tell you this. I do like the 50-50s. That's what I would do there, because then you only have to get up into the top 50% of the people that are in your game, or do head-to-head against one person. You know what I mean? But the 50-50 I think is better because you just have to know a little bit about what you're doing, and then you'll be able to make money long-term doing it, although it's a grind. You just have to come in the top 50%. UNLV and Rutgers are playing in Las Vegas as well. UNLV, sort of the de facto home team here, obviously, because they're in Las Vegas, although this is not their home arena. Rutgers both of these teams have not looked very good in the tournament, although UNLV, they just got blown out by Alabama. Although they're still good. I don't think they're as good as their ranking suggests, but they're good. UNLV, they're probably going to want to save face, I would imagine, in the final game in the Las Vegas tournament here. I think they're going to be kind of in an embarrassed mood here and want to show up. Rutgers, this is the loser bracket here. Rutgers played more competitively yesterday against Notre Dame. I think maybe Rutgers just kind of has run out of steam in this thing. They're not very good either, so I kind of like UNLV in that game. I don't have that strong of an opinion on it. UNLV is the favorite. Rutgers is really not that good for a Big Ten team, and UNLV gets the chance to beat a power conference team here, so they might consider that to be somewhat of a big deal. They're up from 2.5 to 3.5. UNLV is. Although part of the reason why they're favored by that much is because they're in their home city. 84% of the tickets, 88% of the cash on them. They look like maybe the public side, although I don't know if the public is really getting that involved in this game. But, yeah, I would lean towards UNLV in that game. Laying 3.5 isn't as tempting as 2.5, but that is probably what I would do. Washington and Nevada, this is actually one of my stronger opinions here. This game is in Palm Springs, which I don't know if that really is more of a benefit to one team over the other. Both teams are in the Pacific time zone, so I don't think it really matters that much. But I think this is a positive spot for Washington because they haven't played since they barely escaped against Southern at home, which was a game. I talked about it because I faded Southern coming off of that game, and I got a win. I forget who they even played, but we got a win on the show fading Southern after this. It was with San Jose State. That's right. Washington were 23.5-point favorites in this game, and they had to go to double overtime to get by Southern in this one. So Washington, they played a bad game. They just barely escaped. And when you have a very heavy favorite like that barely escapes, they usually refocus and play better in the next game. So I think you will get a much better effort from them. They haven't played in a while, though, so that kind of worries me. They've actually been off for like a week, and sometimes that can hurt your momentum, although I think you could consider them to have gone into that break on a bad note, though, because that was a bad game against Southern. So I do think they're going to be working on fixing things. You can also kind of explain why they didn't play well, because they were coming off a loss to Baylor, which was a true road game, I guess, which was a close game for Washington, big game. And then they came back to Washington, and they played their rivalry game against Washington State and beat them. So I think they just kind of came into this Southern game flat and overlooked them. So I think you can kind of explain why that happened. You can explain the bad performance. My other hesitation, though, with Washington here is that they do have UCLA next, which is a bigger game for them, and then USC after that. So a couple of former Pac-12 matchups there. And Washington, those actually are both Big Ten matchups now, as odd as that sounds. I still hate that. And it is possible that Nevada does want to step this up for a game against Washington, so that would be my hesitation here. Nevada had a nice win to kind of erase that losing momentum that they had. They beat UC Santa Barbara. That's a pretty good win. UC Santa Barbara is one of the better teams in the Big West almost always. So Nevada got that win. Now they're having to play in California. Both of these teams are down in Southern California, I believe. I would probably lay it with Washington. And I considered adding this to my card, but then I had some reservations with it, so I'm not doing it. But Washington is only a 5.5-point favorite now. They opened 7.5, so I don't know what drove that line down, because it looks like Nevada is a public underdog here at 78% of the tickets and only 76% of the cash. Don't really know why they would be public against a power conference team. With the records not being that much different between the two teams. Actually, Washington's, I think, is better. So I don't really understand why the public looks like they're on Nevada, but I would lay the points with Washington. We got number 9 BYU and Miami in Kissimmee, Florida. So the venue is more beneficial for Miami in this one. BYU, they're coming off 2 big games, man. They came back against UConn. I believe that game was, in Boston Garden. Not Boston Garden, that's long gone. The TD Garden in Boston. BYU made a huge comeback in that game and got to within 2. Then they turned around and they still played well, and they beat me on the show because I liked Wisconsin. With BYU coming off that huge effort, traveling all the way back. Plus, it was a tournament revenge spot for Wisconsin. Didn't matter. BYU blew them out. Now BYU's coming off those big wins, and they got to go to Florida. Although, at least for BYU, they did play on the East Coast already because they did play that game in Boston. So this is not the first time they're traveling to the Eastern time zone, but still, I don't love the spot, really. It looks like it could be a bit of a letdown spot for them. Miami, I know they're 5-1, but they're pretty untested. Their only test, really, was against Florida, and they lost, although they weren't horrible in the game. I would lean to Miami in this one. You're going to get them as a fairly big underdog, I would imagine. BYU is up to a 9-point favorite. 52% of the tickets and 98% of the cash on Miami. I agree with taking the points with Miami in that one. That's what I would do in that game. Next up is my best bet, my only one in college, so let's get to it. And this line is already on the move, man, so it's getting close to a key number. South Florida -6 is the play. We're going to lay it with South Florida, but the line is already moving up, so there is agreement with me here. The line movement might be slowed down by the fact that Western Kentucky looks like they're getting the public ticket percentage here. 82% of the tickets and only 70% of the cash on them. The line has already moved up to 7. I would lay 7 or less with South Florida. 7's the key number in college basketball, because teams stop intentionally fouling there, or usually, but of course, as we saw, sometimes they foul down 6 and then they go down 8. But yeah, I would probably still do it at 7. We're going to lay South Florida here. This is mostly about fading Western Kentucky. This is out in the Bahamas, which I guess you could argue that venue is better for South Florida because they're closer to the Bahamas. But Western Kentucky, they just took their first loss of the season. But not only that, it's the game that I already talked about, man. They really stepped up their game and tried to beat an SEC team here, Vandy. Andy's Vandy, 18.5-point underdogs in this game, and they got to within 3 late in the game. Huge comeback for Western Kentucky in that game. Almost were able to pull it out. Now, after that, they fell short, took their first loss of the season. Both of those things can hang you over into the next game, man. Like, ending your undefeated streak and having a huge game like that where you almost pulled off the upset, that turns into a major flat spot in the next game. That is my opinion here. So I think they're going to be flat coming into this one. Western Kentucky also, I know that they have a decent name like in college basketball from years past. They're not a horrible team, but they've been really, really unbattle tested. I know they look pretty good against Vandy, but the rest of their schedule has been very easy. I think they did step up their game for that one game. And the public's going to like them because they're 4-1, but obviously they're not the better teams, as South Florida's favored, even though South Florida's 3-3. South Florida, they have faced a more difficult schedule. They lost to George Washington early on. George Washington is probably going to be in the mix in the top part of the Atlantic 10 there. South Florida beat Kennesaw on the road. That's a decent win. And then they took losses to Oklahoma State, who is still a power conference team, even though they've been down. They're off to a pretty good start this year, Oklahoma State, so they might not be that bad. And then, and I didn't like the spot for South Florida in that game either, by the way. And then South Florida lost in this tournament to VCU. But I did point that out. That was kind of an ugly performance from them where they really didn't shoot well. Although I don't know if South Florida is necessarily known for shooting that well. But this is going to be a big step down in class for South Florida, man, after that loss to VCU. South Florida should shoot better in this game. Western Kentucky is significantly worse than VCU. Ken Bum has VCU like somewhere around like 45th in the country. Western Kentucky is like outside the top 100, probably by about 20 ranking spots. So the spot looks good. The misperception based on the records looks good to me. Yeah, we're going to go with South Florida minus the points. That is my only college basketball play. Yeah, this is why, again, I want every book to be available to me, because if you only have one book, like, you're going to potentially get screwed, especially when it's like FanDuel. 7.5, that is bullshit. And they're giving it to you at like lower juice. Because they don't want to offer the 7. I don't know if they have, will they let you buy back onto the 7? I probably wouldn't even do that though in basketball. I mean, the 7 is a lot more key in football. That's still total BS though. I don't know. I could look at the Massachusetts books right now and tell you what the number looks like here. I'm almost positive there are going to be 7s out there. Yeah, there's a straight 7 at Caesars. Bally has a 6.5 minus 112 in Massachusetts. They lag behind, man. That's a good number there. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I talk about it all the time. These college basketball lines move so fast. This number was at 6 when I looked at it right before I started the show. And we do have a 7 at Bet365. I don't think they exist in Massachusetts. I don't know. FanDuel is giving us a similar number to yours. They're screwing us. Better juice on it, though. But yeah, Caesars and Bally are giving us good numbers. Again, it's the advantage of being able to line shop there, man. In San Diego at this Jenny Craig weight loss, whatever. Wisconsin and Providence. Or actually, yeah, I forgot what it is already. It's Rady Children's. Well, having cancer is a weight loss program as well. So, all right. Chemo is weight loss therapy, man. I'm sorry. Don't nuke my channel. Wisconsin, they're coming off that tough game against BYU, man. Although they did get kind of blown out in the game. But it was their first loss of the season. Sometimes that will hang you over a little bit coming into the next game. I don't know that this venue is really good for either team because I don't think either Wisconsin or Providence has played in the Pacific time zone yet. Both teams have gone out into Mountain Time already and did not fare well. Providence is off a nice win over Penn State, though. That was a nice win. It was their first Power Conference win. So maybe Providence, you could argue, is in maybe a little bit of a letdown spot after that, although I think they'll still show up for a game against Wisconsin. I expect both teams to show up. But that being the case, Wisconsin is the better team, so that is probably the way that I would lean. They're up from 4.5 to 6.5. 85% of the tickets, 90% of the cash on them. The money does look like it's heavy on Wisconsin, but if you do like them, you've lost a little bit of value on the line there with Wisconsin. Again, college basketball, lines moving like crazy. Brad, what's up, man? Oh, that's all right. Wolves on the money line, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. Playoff revenge is definitely a thing. You're correct about that. I forgot about that. That was one thing I did not even mention in my... Wait, was it playoff revenge? Now I'm trying to... Yeah, I guess it was because Minnesota knocked out the Lakers, right? So then OKC, I guess they beat Minnesota in the conference final, I guess, right? So that is pretty big playoff revenge then, I guess, yeah. Was it them or was it the Warriors? I don't remember now. But, yeah, I think... You are right, I believe. Hold on. I'm gonna look right now because I forget. Although I think, did Houston get their playoff revenge last night? Because that was my opinion in that game, was Houston to get playoff revenge against Golden State. I'm looking at Minnesota right now in the postseason last year just to remind myself. Yeah, it was the conference finals. So they beat Golden State, and then they lost to OKC. So, yeah, that is correct. Yeah, conference finals, you're right. That's a bigger form of revenge. So I totally overlooked that part of the handicap, although I still would not have been on Minnesota, for my own purposes, I would not have done it. But they did cover. But you needed them on the money line. If you were going to be on Minnesota, I would have taken the points and then put a little bit of put 10% of the bet on the money line. That's usually what I do. But I mean, that is a tall order asking them to win at OKC when OKC is just dominant at home and Minnesota still has not beaten a team with a winning record this entire season. All right, we have Santa Clara, St. Louis out in Palm Springs as well. This venue definitely is better for Santa Clara because they're in California, so they get to play in their own time zone at the very least. They're a good team, man. I mean, they might maybe make some noise in the West Coast Conference, even though I know it's always Gonzaga, St. Mary's. Still, those are the two teams to beat, but Santa Clara and San Francisco might make some things interesting out there. And Grand Canyon's in the Mountain West. What am I saying? But yeah, those two teams, they're not bad. St. Louis is also not bad with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Robbie Avila still there. Santa Clara is off to a nice start. They're undefeated. They got some wins over Xavier and Nevada, although both those teams look like they're down this year, but they blew out Xavier in a true road game. So that's still pretty good to do that to a Big East team. So Santa Clara, they're not bad. They're coming off annihilating Louisiana, but whatever. St. Louis has also looked pretty good. They're also undefeated. Their best win is at home, I believe, over Grand Canyon. So Santa Clara is a little bit more battle-tested. St. Louis is having to, I believe, leave home for the first time. I don't know. Maybe they played a neutral site game, but I don't believe they played on the Pacific Coast yet at all. So I think this will be difficult for St. Louis to have to do that. I like Santa Clara on this one, although the money seems to have started disagreeing with that. St. Louis dropped from a 3.5-point favorite to a 1.5-point favorite, but now 81% of the tickets and only 71% of the cash on Santa Clara. It's making St. Louis look like an anti-public favorite, which I like anti-public favorites, which I gave you one as my best bet here. But in this one, I don't know. I don't really see it. I lean to Santa Clara in that game, getting some amount of points at least there. ESPN2 in the Terry's Chocolate in Kissimmee. We have Georgetown and Dayton playing each other on the night slate here. Georgetown off to a nice undefeated start. They got a couple of good wins. They beat Maryland on the road, and that was Maryland before their best player went down. And they beat Clemson at home. Those are decent wins for Georgetown, although those teams are probably down from where they were last year. Dayton is also probably a little bit down from what we've seen out of the last couple of seasons from them. Dayton's been all right this year too, though. I mean, they had a loss at Cincinnati that wasn't, I mean, it's not an embarrassing loss. Like, they lost by 12. They played all right in the game, and they did beat Marquette on the road, which was their big win against a decent Big East team. Now they get to face another Big East team here, but Georgetown, I believe, is actually the better team right now. They are the team that's in the better conference, although I know conference play hasn't started yet. Georgetown seems to be slowly turning this thing around, man, and they're slowly getting better. They've flipped from a 1-point dog to a 1-point favorite, although we see 58% of tickets, 99% of the cash on Dayton. I don't know if I buy that cash percentage, but I would probably lean towards Georgetown in that game. I think they're the slightly better team, and I think that's the way to handicap a game like that where there isn't really a situation to fall back on, which usually those are not games I'm going to play. The numbers are actually the way to look in games like that. So like when the situation seems pretty much even on both sides, then I think the numbers are the way that you want to look. But like that's always kind of the battle like between the handicappers. You got like numbers guys will say one thing, and then I'm on the situational side and we say another thing. And I want both things to line up ideally, but I'll just throw out like kind of what the numbers say and just kind of rely on the odds makers, like kind of knowing what they're doing and being close and just not quite accounting for the situation. So I think the situation is better to look at because it's just not as, you can't really quantify it. So if the odds makers are really just having to rely on mostly just numbers, then, you know, if the number isn't off, then what do you really have left? Well, you have the situation, and that the situation, if it's heavily on one side, that does mean that the number should move a little bit in the other direction. Sometimes the odds makers will skew it in that direction, knowing some of those situational angles, but still, I don't think it gets accounted for enough, so that's what I do. And yeah, like the numbers are good, like to give you the overall like perspective here, like where is this number, how far off is it, whatever, but it's not like the only thing. And situation matters because human behavior is a thing. These are humans here. They're not robots. So if they were robots, then the numbers would make sense. You just relying on the numbers. But because they're human, then that's how you get, that's how upsets happen and stuff like that. That's why we watch sports. All right, and then we do have a big game on CBS in the United Center in Chicago, the Bulls Arena here. I think also where the Blackhawks play. Number 4, Duke. Number 22, Arkansas playing in this one. It's a good matchup, although I think Duke is legitimately a top 5 team, and Arkansas I think is actually not a top 25 team right now. So I do think the rankings makers have this a little bit off. I don't think Arkansas is quite as good as that. Duke is a pretty big favorite. They're a 10.5-point favorite, although it looks like they are public, although that does make sense. Duke, people at home tonight, they're going to want something to bet on. There is NFL and college football, but if they're going to bet on a basketball game tonight, it's most likely going to be this game, though. So it is the type of game where you do kind of want to fade the public more often than not. 71% of the tickets on Duke, 65% of the cash on them. So they are public with less of the money on them. And fading the public makes sense in games like this because the odds makers know the public's going to come in on this and they want to try to split the action. So they know they have to skew the line more towards the public favorite there, the public side. So you're not really getting any line value on Duke, even though I think they're the better team. So I don't really want to fade them here. But Arkansas, the one time they stepped up in class, they lost to Michigan State, although it was a close game. So there's not really shame in losing by 3 to Michigan State. Duke is kind of a similar team in that they slow the pace down, although Arkansas is going to want to go faster than Duke. Duke Hasn't been as slow this year as they were last year, but they're still a lot slower tempo than Arkansas is. So they're going to want to slow it down, and that might throw Arkansas out of their preferred style, kind of like Michigan State did, even though that game was close. So that's another kind of knock against Arkansas on this one, another reason why I kind of don't want to do it. At Duke, Duke isn't exactly totally battle-tested either. They do have two pretty good wins against Texas and Kansas. Kansas is probably better than Arkansas right now, though, so they have beaten a team better than Arkansas, at least. Duke does have to face Florida after this, but I'm not really sure they're going to overlook a big ranked matchup like this, though, going up against John Calipari. So we have the matchup of the Johns as far as the coaches are concerned. Shire versus Calipari there. Pumpkin pie jewel pods, do they not do that? Are those are like vapes, right? I don't know. I'm not a vape guy. In the Bahamas, we do have Colorado State and Wichita. Colorado State coming off a loss to Virginia Tech. That was a big game, I think, for Colorado State, trying to step it up against an ACC team, and I thought they would bounce back potentially from that game against Denver, where that was an ugly loss to an in-state little brother in Denver. Colorado State did cover, though, so that was my opinion, was that Colorado State would cover the number against Virginia Tech, so I was right about that, although I did not give that out as a play. So they are coming off that. That was a big game for them. They do have Colorado next, though it's not until December 6th. That's going to be a big game for them, too, the big rivalry between the two teams there. It's possible maybe Colorado State starts packing it in here. I don't know how much attention they're going to give to Wichita. Wichita, though, they're coming off a close game against St. Mary's, and St. Mary's, they'll slow you down and kind of punish you, so I don't know, man. Wichita coming off that close call, playing well as a big underdog. I don't love them in this spot either, so both teams are kind of in a negative position in this one. Colorado State has dropped from 1.5 to 1. 67% of tickets on them, 86% of the cash on the Wichita side. So the cash coming in on Wichita, I'll agree with it. I think maybe Wichita will step it up to face a Mountain West team because I think they consider the Mountain West to be a bigger conference than the American, which is where they are. And the American's been awful recently. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Then we have Stanford and Minnesota playing in Palm Springs. So I think the location is more helpful to Stanford because they get to at least play in the Pacific time zone. Stanford's coming off an ugly loss to Seattle. Stanford were 10.5-point favorites in this one. I think they were at home, too. So that's really ugly. Yeah, that was in their home arena, too. That was a pretty ugly loss, although Seattle's not a horrible team out in the WAC there. But bad game for them. So I could see it going two ways, though, because now Stanford's off an ugly loss, so sometimes you will bounce back from that. But that first loss of the season, man, again, like I say, sometimes that will hang you over. Although I do think they'll show up for a game against a Big Ten team like Minnesota. Minnesota, they have not stepped up well in class. They had a road game where they lost at Missouri. They played really poorly, actually, against Green Bay and Chicago State. So teams they should have probably easily beaten, and they did not. You can kind of give them a pass for the Green Bay game because they were coming off that big Missouri game, but after that game, how do you have another bad game against Chicago State? Very, very bad team, worse than Green Bay, significantly, I think. And then Minnesota lost by 12 to San Francisco up in South Dakota, so it was a venue closer to Minnesota, and they took that loss too. So that's like 4 pretty bad performances in a row from Minnesota. They're not that good, it doesn't look like, man. So, yeah, looking at this game, I would lean towards Stanford here. Stanford is already up to a 2.5-point favorite from a pick'em. 89% of the cash on them. 62% of the tickets are on Minnesota. Yeah, I think it's a bounce-back spot for Stanford after that ugly loss. That's the way I would lean in that one. I just have a few concerns about it. But, yeah, I think Stanford is the right call in that game. I agree with the money in that one. The Beatles Anthology 4, no. What's on it? Is there any unreleased stuff on it? I'll talk. Well, actually, I don't even know if I should talk to my dad about it. Although he might watch this show sometimes too. But I don't know. You have mentioned that before, and it did give me a thought. Although if we're saying that that's online, if it's on Spotify or something, he may have already checked it out. But I have an idea for something. All right. And then we have Oklahoma State and Northwestern playing in the United Center in Chicago late night. Northwestern is sort of a semi-home team there because they're a Chicago area school. Oklahoma State, they might be on the way back up a little bit, man. They're maybe under the radar right now. They have a win over Texas A&M, which is pretty solid. Although A&M looks like they're a bit down this year, but A&M did win for us as a big favorite the other day. They covered for us. Oklahoma State, they have a win over South Florida too, which is not bad. But now they got to go on the road here. Although this is not a true road game, but it's a semi-road game. This is the CBS Thanksgiving Classic. Northwestern coming off a run of big games where they played. They beat DePaul, Big East team, although not a very good one. Then they came close against Virginia and then beat South Carolina. So they played 3 power conference teams in a row. Maybe they'll have run out of steam a little bit here. South Carolina is not very good in the SEC, though. They may be complete bottom of the SEC, but still a decent win nonetheless over an SEC team. Now they get Oklahoma State on Thanksgiving. I think they will show up, even though they do have Wisconsin and Ohio State looming on the horizon. Those are big conference games there, but I mean, you could argue it's a look ahead. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else I have to say about that game. I kind of expect both teams to show up, but the money seems to be indicating on Oklahoma State, maybe because of that look-ahead component for Northwestern. They're up to a 2.5-point favorite here from 1.5. 80% of the tickets on Northwestern, 58% of the cash, though, on Oklahoma State. So the money is saying Oklahoma State. I'm not going to really disagree with that. All right, let's go to we'll go to football. Well, football's the only thing left, but we'll go to college football, where we have ESPN at 7:30 p.m., one college football game. So the public might get involved in this one. It's Navy and Memphis. It's an interesting matchup, man. It is. I have an opinion on this game. It has not made my card. This is a battle in the whatever it is, the American Conference here. Now, Memphis, they've fallen short of their goals. So they're a disappointed team, man, because they were 2 weeks ago, basically, they were a one-loss team, and they were looking like they had a chance to get into the American Championship game and potentially get into the playoff, maybe, although that loss to UAB was going to be pretty damning, although that was a fired coach spot, I think, for UAB. I should have given it out as a play, given that, but Memphis, they were huge favorites in that game, over 20-point favorites in that game, and they lost. They bounced back nicely with a big win over USF, but then after beating Rice, they've fallen apart, man. They took a loss to Tulane, and then that, I think, was the game that set up the dream crusher for Memphis, and then after that, I think they were kind of a dead team, and they had to go on the road to East Carolina, and they took that loss too. So now Memphis, they're already in a bowl, obviously, because they have 8 wins, but they wanted to get to the American Championship. They can't do that now, so their season is over. But will they show up for this game? I think they might, because that was an embarrassing loss to East Carolina, but now they have an isolated Thanksgiving primetime game that they're hosting on ESPN, and they have the chance to knock Navy out of the conference championship. So maybe that's enough to motivate Memphis here in this final game. I think it might be. So I kind of lean towards Memphis in this one. I think they might show up. Now, Memphis does have to prepare for the triple option, but they did face one when they faced Rice, although Rice is not a good example of one. Rice is starting to do it this year. Memphis has not faced Army this year, who is better at it than Rice. Navy is probably the best out of all of them, so there is that. But Memphis does have extra time off. Both these teams haven't played since Saturday, November 15th, so it's like basically coming out of a bye here. So Memphis, they went into the bye on that bad note of losing two games in a row, man. So that's a positive. Like I say, when you go into the extra rest on a losing note, a lot of times you'll use that extra rest to fix things. And in this case, they can use it to prepare for the triple option for Navy here. Now, for Navy, they got to win. So I do worry about this a little bit because Navy, I would worry about laying the points with Memphis, because when you have a team that, like, they need to win to get into the championship game, but they're also an underdog, that's kind of a little bit different because a lot of times these teams that like need to win, they'll be favored. So you're like really getting value in fading them. And I think you still might be getting value fading fading Navy here. But Navy is an underdog, though. When you get a team that's going to be motivated like Navy as an underdog, I don't know that I can quite do it. But Navy, they went into their break. They've had the same amount of time off. They went into their break on the best note possible, man. They beat South Florida as big-time underdogs in that game. That was a huge win for Navy. They're staying alive for their conference championship hopes here, and they were underdogs at home in this game, and they won. ESPN, of course, doesn't have the ESPN bet thing. Oh, no, they do. Here it is. They were 8.5-point underdogs. They won the game outright. Yeah, it was a huge win for Navy there. So they went into that extra time off on the best note possible. So that's not good because sometimes you go into the bye and the extra rest on a good note like that. It's like, what do you have to fix? You have nothing to fix. So I think that's a negative for Navy. And they do still have their huge Army-Navy game up after this. It's always after the rest of the regular season is over. That's coming up on December 13th. But will they really look ahead to that? That I don't really think so. I think the bad part of this is more that they're coming off a massive win and that the bye is going to be unhelpful to them. I think that's the bad part of this. So I like Memphis in this game. I think Navy, their run might come to an end here, man. Memphis is favored. You're getting a better number on them, not 4. 71% of the tickets on Navy. The public coming in on Navy, man. The public likes the team with the better record here. They don't like what they've seen out of Memphis recently. Public very recency bias and fickle. Only 62% of the cash on Navy, though. So Memphis is setting up as an anti-public home favorite, which is... it's a decent way to look a lot of the times because then you basically, the odds makers are telling you you're getting the better team and the public doesn't want them. So that's what's going on here. I would lay it with Memphis. The totals dropped a little bit. The money's coming in on the under for what it's worth. I think the under is more correlated to Navy, though, because Navy obviously runs the football constantly. So I think if it's going to be a lower scoring game, that benefits Navy. Memphis is going to need to be scoring in the game. Because that's what they do. But that's the way that I lean. We have a lot of college football tomorrow, man. Black Friday is going to be, it's going to be an insane show tomorrow. There's an NFL game. There's a lot of college basketball. Huge college football slate that you see here. I'll probably have at least one play in college football. All these rivalry games coming up. And then, yeah, today's the break, and it's still like an hour show just for 2 plays. Tomorrow's going to be brutal. We got hockey and NBA as well tomorrow. I'm probably going to die. All right. And then we get NFL here. I have an opinion on the side on all 3 games here, and one of them is a play for me. Let's get into it, man. NFL, first game up is at 1. I'm used to it being at noon, though, I think, right? Isn't it usually noon or 12:30? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Lions, Packers, it's a big matchup, man. Huge NFC North matchup here with a lot of implications. Lions are a 3-point favorite, 71% of tickets, 72% of the cash on the Lions. I think there were various points where you could get 2.5 on the Lions. Maybe you still can, because I do like the Lions in this game. This is revenge for the Lions, although I know revenge might matter a little bit less in a situation like this where both of these teams are fighting in the division here, man. So it is a big game for both teams, but this is Dan Campbell in pissed off mode, though, I think, man, because you got Detroit lost to Green Bay in the season opener, 27-13 at Green Bay. And you know, Dan Campbell was really angry after that because he came out and he was angry about that and about people saying that Detroit's offense was no longer good after we saw Green Bay stifle Detroit's offense. People were like, Dan Campbell can't do anything without Ben Johnson. And then Dan Campbell got to face Ben Johnson in Chicago the next week. And what did Dan Campbell do in that game? He ran up the score, and they scored 50-something points in the game. So I'm not saying they're going to score 50. They're not. Green Bay's defense is really good, but I think it's going to be a better game from Detroit than that game was. Now, for Green Bay, they just beat Minnesota last week. I know that's a decent divisional win. They looked pretty good, but I think it was more that Minnesota looked awful. Yes, Green Bay's defense is good. I'll give them that. That was the first time Green Bay actually covered as a big favorite this entire season, I'm pretty sure. Green Bay as a 6.5 or greater favorite. I think they had failed to actually cover every single time They did hear J.J. McCarthy was awful in this game, though. So it wasn't all Green Bay. Green Bay's offense has been struggling, man. Like, Green Bay's offense was not good in this game. It was just Minnesota's was horrendous. Unbelievably bad. And yes, some of it was that Green Bay's defense is good, for sure. I think Green Bay is the better defense here. Detroit is the better offense. And I know I usually say better defense getting points, which is Green Bay here. I usually like to look that way, but in this case, I do not. Detroit is coming off a scare, dude. I know it's a short week, and they did have to play overtime, so that's a little bit of a concern, but they almost lost to the New York Giants, dude. I think Detroit, I thought they were going to be a little bit angry after that horrible offensive performance against Philadelphia. They did still get over their team total, although they had to do it in overtime. But yeah, it was not the greatest performance. I think maybe they were looking ahead. I mean, this Thursday game, especially a Thanksgiving game, a revenge divisional game against Green Bay, I think it was a major look-ahead component there. So I think Detroit did get caught looking ahead in that game. I expect them to show up. The monkey is already off Detroit's back as far as there was a long period of time where Detroit was just not winning on Thanksgiving. Like, they hadn't won under like the new Goff, whatever era, but they have since then. I think they've won at least twice since then. I know last year was a little bit bad. Detroit had like a pretty big lead on Thanksgiving last year, if you remember, against Chicago, and they blew the lead and they came close to losing the game, and then there was some clock mismanagement on the part of Eberflus, who was the coach of Chicago at the time, who's now Dallas's defensive coordinator for some reason, and they have a horrible defense, so that's great. And they'll be playing in the next game, by the way. And Detroit's playing Dallas next, too. So a lot of things coming full circle here. But, yes, the monkey's off Detroit's back. They can win on Thanksgiving. They've proven that. I think maybe they're going to remember last year where they almost blew the game and remind themselves to not do that this time. 2 years ago, I believe Detroit had a horrible game against Green Bay, if I remember correctly. I think it was just 2 years ago. Thanksgiving was Detroit against Green Bay, if I'm not mistaken, right? And Detroit was the favorite, and Detroit had like 3 turnovers and completely lost the game. Do I remember that correctly? I think I do. So Detroit might remember that as well, because that was still with Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, whatever. Yeah, I like Detroit in this one. Detroit also seems to not really have the hype anymore, man. Like, people are talking about how Detroit was so bad against the Giants last week, which I just explained why that was the case. People are saying Detroit might not even make the playoffs, whatever. Playoffs? I don't know. It's all a little bit crazy.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game. Another game.
Yeah, so, but yeah, I think the anti-Detroit hype is getting a little extreme at this point, man. And by the way, the Giants, a lot of what they did in that game were fluke plays, if you saw that. The first touchdown from the Giants was on a flea flicker, or sort of a flea flicker. It was like I think it was a lateral to a wide receiver or running back who then lateraled it back to Winston, and then he chucked it deep, and Detroit got fooled, and there was just a guy wide open deep. And then there was another play where Winston caught a touchdown pass and made a ridiculous move to get into the end zone. So there were a lot of just... The Giants were just deciding, let's take Detroit by surprise. Because the Giants, they're a huge underdog with nothing to lose, man. And with Winston out there getting all fired up, the Giants, they were just willing to try whatever. They were willing to run a bunch of trick plays. That's not going to be the case here. This game is going to be tight butthole, man, with the Packers. They're not going to be running all these trick plays out there. And the Lions, their defense is not quite as bad as what it looked like last week. Yes, the Packers have the better defense here. The Lions definitely have the better offense here, but the Lions' defense is mediocre. It's not terrible. So, yes, I like the Lions in this game. It used to be 12:30. Stop changing tradition, man. Although this one, I'm not too mad about this one, though, because I get more time to get everything done. Do I ever get mad when the Lions get blown out? Yeah, well, only if I have something on the Lions, which I think I actually did 2 years ago. I think I might have. I don't remember. I'm not going to do it this time, but I will. I'll have a pick on the Lions, and I have to decide whether I'm going to add them to my pick 5 or not. I don't know if I will. I don't know if it's strong enough, but I lean to the Lions in this game. Saab, what's up, man? Nashville, yeah, I wasn't really willing to do it, even though I leaned to Nashville. Did my other leans win, by the way? I don't remember. Let me look real quick. I had the two other leans that I gave out were Montreal, even though the money looked like it was completely against it. Did I get that one right? And then I forget what the other one was. I don't remember, man. I thought it was Montreal. Yeah, it was. Yeah, Montreal won, so I was right about that too. And then what was the other one? I don't remember, man. Yeah, I forget. I had one other opinion. I was wrong about the Bruins' opinion, but I'm glad about that because they won the game. So, yeah, what was the other one that I said almost made my card? I don't remember now. There was one other one, and now it's going to bug me. Oh, Chicago. They lost in overtime. But, I mean, an underdog taking the game into overtime, and that was close, too. So, all right. I'm still the GOAT, basically. Yeah, the Islanders, I don't know. The Bruins just seem to have the Bruins match up well against the Islanders because the Islanders don't play a lot of offense, I think, so the games are always close. And then the Bruins are able to, play into that style as well. Well, yeah, we'll talk about the NHL tomorrow. I have not looked at the NHL tomorrow at all. Rangers, Bruins, highly unlikely it's going to be a play for me there. All right, let's finish the NFL, and then I'll be able to get my picks in and then leave and celebrate Thanksgiving, baby. All right, Kansas City and Dallas. Now, this is an interesting one, and you already know what my thoughts are on this because Robin was in the chat yesterday. She's a fan of Kansas City. You guys know I lean to Kansas City in this game. Now, I did just see I have ESPN on here, and they were talking about this game, and they had the panel on I don't know, whatever the NFL show is there. And all of the talking heads picked Dallas to win this game outright, except Joe Fortenbaugh was in studio, and he's a known Las Vegas, I believe he's a bookmaker, but he also gives out picks and stuff. Fortenbaugh was the only one of the panel to pick Kansas City. So that tells you something, too, when you have all the talking heads who are just a bunch of morons, and they're basically representative of the public, Mike Greenberg and all those dudes. All of them picked Dallas in this game, even though Dallas is an underdog. And then you have the bookmaker out there being like, nah, Kansas City's favorite. I'm picking the Chiefs. That is something of note. Maybe I should watch more of these idiots just because that gives me a better gauge on where the public is, although I think I have a good gauge anyway on it. The public likes Dallas, I think, man, to at least a decent extent. Dallas has all this hype now. Everybody's on the Dallas train because they won on Monday night, and then they won again last week, mostly because of that. Because, Monday night, that was a play I gave out on the show. The Cowboys came out of a very beneficial bye. They played really well for their player who committed suicide, and that was against the Raiders. Come on, man. The Raiders might be the worst team in the NFL, so that's not an impressive win for the Cowboys. I'm glad we got it right on the show for a winner there. Last week was impressive, though. I got to say that. And I gave out the Cowboys as a lean, and I put them in my pick 5, which luckily, because it was my last pick in that was between Dallas and Pittsburgh. And with Pittsburgh, they lost by 3, and we had a 2.5 in our game. So I went with Dallas because we got plus 3.5 on it. I am really glad that I did that. So Dallas, they're coming off a huge win, dude. I think that game meant more to them than this game, than this Thanksgiving game, to be honest. I know Thanksgiving, it's a big hyped event, whatever, but come on, man. Dallas just beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Those teams hate each other. It was a revenge game, divisional game. That was a massive win, and Dallas overcame a 21-0 deficit in that game to win the game in front of their home crowd. And after this, next week, they have to play the Thursday night game next week. Mr. Thursday Night, me. I'll see what my opinion is going to be on that game when it happens. But they got to play the Detroit Lions, man. That is a big conference game because right now, Dallas and Detroit, they're fighting for the final playoff spots right now. That is a huge game. So I don't think this game actually matters as much to Dallas. Kansas City actually kind of needs this game a little bit more. I think. Well, I don't know, because both teams, they still need it because it's, they're fighting to make the playoffs, basically. So both teams do still need it, but it is an out-of-conference game for both teams. So I don't know. It means a little bit less when it comes down to it on the tiebreakers and whatever. I know I usually say fade teams that are in road out-of-conference games, which is what Kansas City is here. I know I usually say fade teams that are coming off a big win. Kansas City is coming off a big win. 2 big games in a row, actually. Actually 3, but they had a bye after the Buffalo loss. Kansas City lost to Denver, big game there. They turned it around, and they had a huge comeback, actually, against Indy last week. That was a big win for Kansas City, man. So those are some of my hesitations about Kansas City. That, and now on a short week, they do have to travel. But going from Kansas City to Dallas is not really a huge travel spot, I wouldn't say. But it is still, kind of an unfamiliar venue, right? So the home team does have a preparation edge on Thursday because they don't have to go anywhere. Dallas is just staying at home. So there is a little bit of an edge there, which, by the way, same thing with Detroit. Detroit's staying at home. Green Bay is having to travel from Green Bay, although that's not a huge travel spot either. But and for Green Bay, I mean, they're a divisional team, so it means a little bit less. Like on a short week, divisional teams usually they're more well-equipped to go on the road for a divisional game because they play at that place every year, and they know that team pretty well. So the teams that are unfamiliar with each other, it's actually worse for the road team, in this case, Kansas City. But I still like Kansas City in this game. I think Dallas is in the bigger letdown spot. I actually think the game means less to Dallas. And then the odds makers are also telling you what to think, just like Fortenbaugh did over there. Chiefs are a 3-point favorite with juice. You probably have to lay 3.5 on this, maybe. Well, depends. Like, you could lay 3 minus 120, I guess, if you want to. Then you get off that hook, at least, if you do want Kansas City. Or you could money line it. Probably have to pay minus 180 something, though, on the money line, which is a little bit expensive. Maybe money line parlay. 54% of tickets, 66% of the cash on the Chiefs. The actual money's coming in on the Chiefs. Yeah, I agree with the Chiefs in the game. That would be my lean. It's not a play for me. I was kind of considering it. I have some reservations about it, like I said, but I think the Chiefs get it done in that one. As far as the totals, by the way, the total did drop a little bit in Packers-Lions. 76% of tickets on the over, 56% of the cash on the over. I still think the Lions are kind of thought of as this high-flying offense, even though I like the Lions in that game. And you got to think the Lions are somewhat correlated to a higher-scoring game, correlated to an over, because if Green Bay is going to cover and or win, they're probably going to do it with their defense. But all that being said, I mean, I don't really disagree with the under in that game. I think it's going to be a tight divisional game. It's going to play like a playoff game, but I still like the Lions to get out of there with the win and cover, because it's a pretty small number, especially if you get 2.5. And then, yeah, this game is a much higher total, by the way. Chiefs-Cowboys, 52.5. So it's gone kind of through that key number of 51.5. 69% of the tickets on the over, 56% of the cash on the over. So the money looks like it's coming back a little bit on the under. The Chiefs, I think, are also correlated to an under in this game. The Chiefs, I mean, I know they're the favorite, but they're the team that plays defense out of the two, okay? Like, the Cowboys do have the better offense out of the two. Chiefs' offense is decent, but the Chiefs are like a top 5 defense, man, and the Cowboys are a bad defense, even though they seem to be improving a little bit. They did make some trades. It's still Eberflus in there, and the Cowboys, I mean, what can you take away from their defense, what they did against, Philly? I mean, they're not the greatest offense, and the Raiders are just god-awful. So I don't know. I don't know what you can really take away from that. I do think the Chiefs will be able to score against the Cowboys, though. That defense is still not totally fixed for the Cowboys. Like, it's still probably a bottom 10 defense. So I think the Cowboys are going to be correlated to an over in this game. I would probably lean towards more of an under there, because I do think the Chiefs will win, although I think the Chiefs could win in a high-scoring game too. I mean, they do have offensive weapons, but the Chiefs just don't really have the ability to run the football, though. So that kind of causes their offense to struggle a little bit, even though they kind of supplement, or they supplant, what's the word I'm looking for? They use short passing in lieu of the rushing attack. Pacheco is going to play, it looks like, by the way. I don't even know if that really matters for the Chiefs, because he doesn't really ever do anything anyway. Now we'll get to my actual play. Saab, what is that? That's, wait, you're plus 2,200 on what? On Dallas to win the Super Bowl? or on the Chiefs. You're talking about the Chiefs, I assume, right? Actually, no. Chiefs are going to be way better than 2,200, right? The Chiefs probably have the best odds to win the AFC right now, even though they're sitting at 6-5. The Chiefs are really, really good. Baltimore Ravens is what I hope it is, man, because they were my preseason pick to win the whole thing. I still think they're definitely going to win their division. I think the Ravens still are going to win the AFC. They're good. They're a sleeping giant, and I think people are still sleeping on them. And Green Bay was my pick to win the NFC, and I think they still could do that. Let's go to the best bet, man. This is the only other best bet. Dirty Sock, I see you in there. Thanks for hanging out. I gave out South Florida in college basketball already, and now the final play is going to be... you played Baltimore to win the Super Bowl when they were 1-5. I love that bet. I recommended doing it when they were 1-5. I recommended Baltimore to win the division, though, which they were only a small underdog at that point to win the division, but that was my recommendation. Baltimore to win the division. They were like plus 120 when they were 1-5. They were only plus 120. And now my recommendation before tomorrow's game is that you play the Bears to miss the playoffs at plus 120, which seems like a ridiculous price. Like, how could the Bears be that close to missing the playoffs? But I already told you, they're going to be an underdog in every remaining game except the home game against Cleveland. So the Bears, and that game is in a Packers sandwich. So the Bears might lose every single game for the remainder of the season. But my play tonight, we know what it is. It's the Baltimore Ravens, -7. We're getting extra value on this number now. We're going to go with it. The money looks like it agrees. Hopefully you can get the 7 and not 7.5. I think you'll be able to do it. The public might start coming in and taking the Bengals as well. I think if you keep looking, you'll get a 7. If you can't find the 7 and it's 7.5, I might tease the Ravens because I really don't think they're going to lose the game. This should have been the one I recommended as a teaser along with the 49ers on the Monday night game because I think the Ravens are going to win the game for sure. So I would tease that thing. You could tease it down to 1.5 if it's at 7.5. And then find another game to tease it with this week, which I haven't really analyzed the rest of the games this week yet, but I'm sure there's something that would make a decent tease otherwise this week, although I haven't actually looked yet, like I said. Actually, yeah, I would tease it with the Patriots on Monday night, actually, if you haven't set up a teaser yet. I do not think the Patriots are going to lose that game on Monday, so that's what I would do. I would do Ravens, Patriots, tease them both down to 1.5 if you want to do a teaser. But we're going to go with the Ravens -7 here. The 7s are out there. Now, the Ravens were a 10.5-point favorite on the opener, and now the line has moved. They're actually probably around 11, and now it's moved to 7. And why? It's because the Bengals, for whatever reason, are rushing Joe Burrow back out there, even though they're a 3-8 football team or whatever they are. I don't know why they're doing that. The money's coming in on the Ravens, 69% of the tickets, 78% of the cash on the Ravens. Seems like there still are not many Raven believers out there, man, sitting at 6-5. But yeah, I know they've reeled off a bunch of wins. They've won every game since their bye, but nobody's impressed by any of them. Even though the Ravens won twice for me as well on the show. They beat Chicago and Minnesota. Those were both plays for me on the show. Nobody's looking at Baltimore beating Chicago. Everybody kind of loves Chicago right now, although I actually put less stock into that win because it was just a really good spot for Baltimore. And I think Chicago is the most overrated team in NFL history. But the public seems to just ignore that at this point. And now they see, Baltimore beat Miami, Minnesota, Cleveland, and the Jets. Nobody's impressed by any of that. They didn't cover against Cleveland. They didn't cover against the Jets. But I like that because Baltimore has all this momentum right now. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're beating bad teams, and they're not overexerting themselves. That's what you want. Now they have this big game. This is a big game. I know it's a big game for both teams, but Baltimore winning this game could put them in sole possession of the AFC North, or at least it will temporarily at least. And then they face Pittsburgh next week, so they kind of have control over their own destiny here because they still have to face Cincinnati and Pittsburgh again after that too. So Baltimore, they definitely have everything in front of them, man. I think they're absolutely going to win the division. I think they're going to show up for this game. Oddsmakers are telling you they're the better team. And now we have the situation where we're getting line value because Joe Burrow is coming back, and that makes this a reverse injured player spot now, which I always talk about, man. When your star player comes back and he's been off for a long time, sometimes he has to get back into the rhythm, get back into it. He's only been practicing for a couple of weeks, I think, now at most. This seems a little bit rushed to me. Sometimes the team has to regain their chemistry, and you get line value fading the team, and that team can kind of like ease up a little bit and be like, yes, our star player is back. You know what I mean? So we're getting extra line value now on the Ravens for that reason. Cincinnati also played a good game last week, man, against New England. So they put in a big effort last week. They almost beat the 10-2 Patriots, who are undefeated on the road. The Bengals probably should have won this game, to be honest. The Bengals were losing this game by 3 down the stretch, and they had chances to win the game and blew it as big underdogs. So the fact that they played that close against the Patriots, they did get outgained by close to 100 yards, but it was a close game, dude. Bengals absolutely had chances to win, although the scoreboard actually makes it look a little bit better than it was because they did get outgained by almost 100 yards. Now they got to turn around off of that, and they got to go to Baltimore. I really don't love it, man. And we're looking at this this Bengals team, man. I don't think they've been that good on the road either this year. Let's see. What have they done on the road? They beat Cleveland barely by 1. Didn't cover. They got blown out at Minnesota somehow. That was the battle of the backup quarterbacks. So that was Carson Wentz from Minnesota and Browning for Cincinnati. So yeah, I know it was Browning. Browning was there in the Denver game and the Green Bay game. They lost in a blowout to Denver. They actually covered against Green Bay on the road, lost. And then they got blown out by Pittsburgh with Joe Flacco there in the Pittsburgh revenge spot there. So Cincinnati has 1 cover on the road this season. They've lost every game by 9+ on the road, except for the game where they won against Cleveland, but they didn't cover it. So Cincinnati has not been good on the road. They've not been good as a road underdog, really. So that's not good, obviously. And that first game was with Burrow. Burrow got hurt in the second game. Now, the other thing about Burrow coming back is that we know about Burrow. Like, when he comes back from a long layoff, he tends to not be that good. We've seen him start slow every single season, and it happened again this year. Their offense was terrible in that game against Cleveland. I know Cleveland's defense is good. Probably, I mean, they're better than Baltimore's defense, but Baltimore, their defense was horrible at the beginning of the year. Their defense is at least improving. It's at least been better recently, even though they've faced some bad offenses, but still, their defense is improving. Cincinnati's offense might not be as good as we're going to think that it will be with Burrow in his first game back, and we don't know how he's going to adapt to coming back right away. They're having to go on the road on a short week, which is not really that easy, even though I know it's a little bit easier because it's a divisional game, but even so, Baltimore, yeah, man, I mean, I don't know. I think Baltimore might even have the better offense in this state right now with Joe Burrow coming back. Big-time question mark. Baltimore, I know Lamar Jackson's been dealing with some injuries as well. Both quarterbacks actually dealing with toe injuries, which is weird. Lamar Jackson, of course, was hurt for a while. He hasn't looked great since coming back, but I just think Baltimore, part of the reason for it is I think Baltimore just didn't really have a reason to just go full throttle offensively, and now I think they will. And, of course, what I haven't mentioned yet is that Cincinnati probably has the absolute worst defense in the NFL. Worse than the Cowboys. This defense is, like, just horrendous. It is a dumpster fire, the Bengals defense. So Baltimore should absolutely be able to put up points in this one. Yeah, I think they'll be able to do it. They should be able to score enough. That being the case, they should be able to cover a number like this. The fact that they're going up against a horrific defense. And remember that if the Ravens are winning, they still got Derrick Henry, so they still have a great running back. And when they're ahead and they're running the football, they're still able to do that and maybe even extend the lead. So that's also good for the Ravens. So yeah, we're going with the Ravens in this one. -7. That's the play. Colts are not going to the Super Bowl. No. Yeah, I know. The Colts are they've played a really weak schedule. They're not as good as they look, and they have a great running back. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's about it. Like, they're gonna get bounced out of the playoffs for sure. I would also put the Patriots in that category. I would put Broncos in that category. All of them are gonna get bounced in the playoffs, and then obviously, I'm going to put the Bears in that category if they even make the playoffs at all. Yeah, those are the teams that are not actually good, and people think that they are good. Mostly it's those four. Well, I don't want to say they're all not good, but they're not as good as people think they are. I'll say the Bears are actually not good, though. Like, the Bears are legitimately a below-average offense and a, like, bottom five probably defense. The Bears are terrible. The Patriots, the Colts, Broncos, they're not bad teams. The Broncos obviously have an elite defense, but those teams are not as good as people think. And again, there's inexperience as well with a lot of those teams. Lamar Jackson to the moon. Yeah, I mean, let's go with it, man. The Baltimore Ravens. As far as the total in that game, just because I talk about these isolated totals, 62% of the tickets, 52% of the cash on the over. So the money also coming in on the under in this one. The total did go up to 51.5, so it went through a key number of 51. You know, I mean, I think the line moved partially because Joe Burrow's coming back, so maybe it's a little bit of an overreaction. I could see this game going under just because it is a big divisional game. Both teams played crazy high-scoring games last year. And the thing is, we don't know if the Bengals offense is going to hit the ground running with Burrow coming back after a long layoff, because obviously a lot of my handicap is based on the guess that will not be the case. So do I think the Ravens offense will score? Yes. And in the recent past, they have scored quite a bit against the Bengals. So the other option here is Ravens team total over. I don't disagree with that either. If you want to just go with the Ravens to score a ton, they'll probably have to score about 30, but I think they could do that against a train wreck of a Bengals defense. So that's the other way to do it. And the Bengals offense is a question mark, but I'm relying on Bengals offense just being struggling in struggle mode, struggle sessions, and of course the extra line value we're getting on the Ravens here. And by the way, something of note here is that Lamar Jackson versus Joe Burrow, their history against each other, Lamar Jackson is 6-1 against him, and he's won the last 5 times these two quarterbacks have matched up. So Lamar Jackson has owned the series. I know it's a team sport. Part of it has to do with the team, but Ravens with Lamar Jackson have owned the Bengals with Burrow. And I know last year, I think both games are pretty close. I know last year I had a play on the Bengals in the game in Cincinnati, and the Bengals absolutely blew that game. Burrow had a really, really untimely interception in the game when the Bengals looked like they were driving to maybe even win the game, and they wound up not even covering. That was brutal. And then we did have... And then I didn't have a play in the other game, but in the other game, if you remember, the Bengals tried to go for 2 at Baltimore, which I didn't mind that decision to try to beat the Ravens on the road as underdogs at that point, but the Bengals missed the 2-point conversion, lost by 1. But the Ravens might even remember that and remember that the Bengals gave them a scare in that game, so I still like it. That's going to do it, man. So once again, only 2 plays today. A long show still, but South Florida in basketball, -6. I think you got to lay about 7 now on that, unfortunately. And then Baltimore, hopefully you can get the -7 on that because that's where we're going in the NFL today. Those are the 2 plays today. That will do it. What are we talking about? The Eagles' offense under a lot of pressure. It's not going to be from the Bears' defense because that defense sucks. I think the Eagles are absolutely going to come out with fire in that game because of that ugly, blown game against Dallas. You're going to see a very pissed Eagles team. So you already know what my opinion is in that game tomorrow. Am I going to add it to my actual card? Probably not, but I do like the Eagles in that game. Thank you, Mr. Pinsey, Jeffrey, Saab, Dirty Sock. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out this morning. Brad, did I miss anybody? Hopefully, Andy. I don't think and Zach. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. And Stacks. Holy crap. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out, man. I'll be back tomorrow, I suppose, and it's going to be a rough one. It's going to be rough, guys, tomorrow. There's a lot of games tomorrow. Oh, God. But today, we get to take it a little bit easy. That's going to do it for now. Learn to Toad on Instagram, Learn to Toad on Twitter. Like, subscribe to the channel here. Leave me some good comments. Give me a good review on Apple and Spotify. Listen over there. That helps me out as well. Covered in Uke on YouTube. I know I've been doing a couple of Uke covers. I did a couple recently Did a Thanksgiving-ish one on Twitter. Haven't uploaded it anywhere else yet. I got to do it, I know, but time crunch, baby. I don't know. I got a lot of stuff going on. And then, and I got to get out of here somewhat soon as well. And patreon.com/learntotoad, and you can throw me some support. You get Spotify uke feed that's not up to date, and you get to request stuff that gets overlooked by me because I haven't been in there recently. I apologize to Charles. Thank you guys for hanging out. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Have a good one, everybody. Make sure to eat some really good food today. Think about what you're thankful for. Spend it with family, with friends, whatever you do, Enjoy it. Have fun today. Don't overdo it. And, I'll be back tomorrow. Peace for now, guys. Thanks.